Good afternoon and welcome to the Daily Ramble here on Claret and Booze. My name's Gary. Got a packed ramble for you today. Loads of stuff because this is what happens when you don't make many shows. And I ain't been making many recently. I will be making more soon. Long story. But I've got to get work's busy. But I'm trying to change things around so I can do a couple of rambles a week. And in a couple of weeks, I might be able to do it. But here we are on Saturday afternoon. It's been a lovely sunny day. But it's freezing now. Absolutely freezing. Especially down here in the shed. Right, so if you enjoy this show, please subscribe to our channel, Claret and Booze here on YouTube. Give us a like and hit the bell notification icon because that really helps us a lot with the old YouTube algorithm. So on today's agenda, well, I'm not going to even read an agenda. I'm just going to dig into it because there's loads. All right, so I'm going to start off talking about Jared Bowen for England last night. Now, I personally thought we did pretty well. You know, it was an understrength England side against Australia. You know, not the greatest glamour game, if you like. It was a second string that Southgate put out. But on the upside, he played 90 minutes, and he was one of the few people who managed to play 90 minutes. I'm talking about the players at the attacking end of the pitch. So Southgate must have been happy with what he saw. It's great to see him get 90 minutes. Is that his debut, or has he made a substitute appearance before? I think he's made a substitute appearance before. But anyway, this is off the back of him signing a new deal last week, which was fantastic. 7 years, you know, committing himself to West Ham. Never in doubt, really, was it? Never in doubt. But I think his father-in-law and his other half might have had something to do with that. It's funny enough, though, when you look at the papers today, a lot of the reports, not the papers, but you look at the reports and the player ratings, a lot of people giving him like 5.5, 6 and saying, oh, you know, he started off well, but then faded off later on in the game. Well, is that something to do with half the team being changed out after the 65th minute? I mean, the guy that he was linking up with, Conor Gallagher, really well, he got taken off on 62 and replaced by Phillips, who hasn't played any football this season. Brilliant. Henderson was replaced by Trippier. Maddison by Foden, Grealish by Rashford, and Watkins by Nketiah. So, I mean, it got radically weakened. So I think it's a little bit unfair. And it kind of reminds me of what Declan Rice said in a text exchange or a WhatsApp exchange with Rio Ferdinand earlier this week when Rio said to him, typical Rio, Man United, glasses on, only sees the big clubs these days, says, you're playing some fantastic football. And he responded and said, well, I'm just doing what I did for West Ham last year, but nobody noticed. And that's exactly the treatment that Bowen's getting now, right? It's tough. It's tough. But as Declan Rice showed, you can actually, when you do impress for England and you can't deny it any longer, then people do take notice of you. They did start taking notice of him when he played for England, not necessarily for West Ham. And I think the same will apply for Bowen. You know, if he puts in a solid 90 minutes and, you know, an assist or scores a goal, then he'll get top marks. But until then, he's going to be marked down. They are the rules of the game, unfortunately. Some news that's been doing the rounds this week is around Zouma'S knees or lack thereof. He is carrying an injury that will be with him for the rest of his life, apparently. He's not training at all. He's a Ledley King style of player. Now, Ledley King, when he was going through this, was fantastic for Spurs. And if you remember back, I think Julian Dix, he used to have to have ice baths and stuff to make the swelling in his knees go down before he played. So, you know, we've been here before, but there are links with him to a move to Saudi. And I think this is probably lazy reporting, you know, because as a Muslim, I think they're linking all Muslim players to moves to Saudi. I don't know how much we'd get for Zouma anyway. What kind of medical could he pass? I mean, I reckon probably no medical. So, look, we're better off keeping him. If he can perform consistently, the way he has been actually, without training, great. Having said that, it's a tough ask playing for West Ham in the centre of defence. And so, and when you look, I think Russ on West Ham Network the other day came up with a stat, and I think he's only been available for like half the games that he's been here for, about 76 games in total, and he's been available half of those. So that's not great. That's not great. Having said that, I think now what seems to be happening is he's just fighting on through it, Ledley King style. Yeah, no training, minimum exertion possible, preserve his body and his fitness. And that takes me on to another Muslim in Agüed, because Agüed has also been linked with a move to Saudi in January. Again, I think it's lazy reporting. Having said that, I think we'd probably get a handsome price for Agüed. He's highly rated still. I know he's screwed up a few times for us in the Premier League, but I would have thought in the Saudi Sunday League he would be he'd be worth a few quid, a nice few quid. And I wouldn't be averse to moving him on and strengthening in that area, simply because I don't think the brand of football we play suits his style. I think he's a good player. In the right side, be a good player. So if you listen to what I'm going to say later, it might actually be worth holding on to him. So players we are also trying to hold on to, apparently. As we know, Souček signed a 4-year extension. Soufal, we're considering a 1-year extension. We already have a 1-year option, so he could be around for a couple of years. Likely, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know whether signing, giving Souček a long contract and then him playing really, really well, which he has been, no denying that, his price has gone back up again, right? Because he's got a long contract and he's playing well and he's at the right age to probably get a lucrative deal. And he was linked with AC Milan, I think. Might have been Inter, I don't know. But I think AC Milan, because I just said Milan. I think that's what the way they refer to AC Milan. And but unfortunately, in the Italian press, they were kind of saying he was in the last year of his contract. Well, it's not true anymore, is it? It's not true. So, the Italians looking out for a freebie, not going to happen. So I don't think that's a viable option. But having said that, we've got a high-performing, well-priced, good, well-priced asset on our hands now. So rather than someone who looked like he's worth 30 bob just a couple of months ago. So that's good. That's really good, really positive. Soufal, there's no resale value in Soufal. I think that's just the case that he started the season really well, and whether he remains as a number one right back or we bring someone in next year or whatever, it's probably worth keeping, especially when we've got Europe to consider. Strength in depth and all that. Now, in January, as you know, it's the African nations, and we're going to lose a couple of players. Agüed, Kudus, or Kudos, or whatever you want to call him. I don't know who else. You can let me know in the comments. But anyway, I think there's 3. I think there's Ben Rama. Ben Rama, I think, might be going as well. But then, during the January transfer window, we're being tipped to lose Fornals, so as we can get a fee for him rather than let him go on a free in the summer, I suspect. Kehrer, who we should get a decent fee for if he goes back to Germany. He can't be happy as a German international playing the odd substitute appearance, the odd game in Europe when no one else is available, can he, really? Johnson, again, rather than let him go on a free, why not get a couple of million for him? So I think that makes sense. Aaron Cresswell, same. Danny Ings, look, he's no use to us now. He's down in a pecking order below Kudos. So it really is not going to add anything to this team, is he? Nothing wrong with him. I think he's a good player, but not for this team. And Maxwell Cornet, the elusive Maxwell Cornet. Will he ever get a run in the side? Somehow, I doubt it. I mean, he's not even being used from the bench, is he? And apparently he's fit at the moment. So I don't really disagree with any of those. Fornals hurts a bit because I really like Fornals, like most of us do. Kehrer, I just don't think he's had a chance. So they're the 2 that I'm a little bit, how can I say, tentative, a little bit upset about. It's also likely the last season of Ogbonna. I don't think we're going to see any renewal there. He started the season looking really well, but the last few games that he's played in, I think he needs regular football, and he ain't going to get regular football. So when he comes on and plays a bit part, he's going to find it difficult to get up to speed, isn't he? And that brings me on to Kudos. So we're talking about players coming in, okay? Now, Kudus, I've seen it reported today that we might be thinking of using him as an alternate number 9 or an alternating, not an alternate, an alternating number 9 with Michail Antonio, which I think is weird. That's not his... I know he can play there, but it's not really his position, is it? I'd rather we went down the route of trying to turn Bowen into a striker and use Kudus in his natural position, which is either out wide or, as we saw last week, behind the striker. We're also being tipped to sign a striker in January, which I must admit, it would be good to sign an actual striker like we had with Scamacca and Haller. But it's also being reported, and it's from Gonzo on Hammers Chat said this, that we've got no money. We've got no money in January. That's not true. As he said, it's not true. Gonzo said it can't be true. It isn't true. Of course we have money. However, my guess is we won't spend it. And, I take you back to some of the things we said here on Claret and Booze earlier in the season when we, around that frustrating time before we'd signed anyone. And then, especially after we'd signed some players, we said it's Moyes' last year. That was number 1. Number 2, we said there's a bigger plan at play here with Steiten. And number 3, this is the stretch, right? We said it's part of a plan for a new owner to come in. Now, any or all of those could be true, but I definitely think that 1 and 2 are true. Okay? And to reinforce point 1, which is about it's Moyes' last season, and I've seen lots of stuff. Honestly, you just can't have a contrary opinion, can you? I do believe that the set of players we've got are excellent, and that I honestly believe if we got a manager in who could take advantage of those assets and spend a little bit more next summer, we could build something genuinely special. And that's not taken away from what has been a very, very special season so far. But I need to remind you of Allardyce's last season, 2014-15. Okay? It was the same deal. If you look at the signings that summer, 2014, we made some cracking signings. I haven't got the list in front of me, but if you saw them, you'd say, wow, what a window. It was a really good window. The same as this window just gone. We signed a lot of players. We flew out the blocks that season. We were top 6 until game 21, when we were actually 3rd in the league. That was the end of January, just as the transfer window closed. It closed with us signing nobody, because everyone knew that Allardyce was going in the summer. And so from that point on, it seemed kind of pointless, The season just played out. I don't know if you remember it, but I do. It was kind of, we were turning up for the sake of turning up. There was a lot of draws, a lot of losses. The players seemed to have given up. Allardyce seemed to have given up. And lo and behold, straight after the last game, they got rid of him. It was predictable. He was running his contract down. We won 1 of the final 17 games after that amazing start to the season. So, and the only team we beat in that final 17 games was Burnley, who got relegated at home. Right, so just tell you, we dropped from 3rd. I don't know where we finished. I'll have to have a look. But anyway, we nosedived. We nosedived after game 21. So it remains to be seen, and that plays into the narrative that if we've got no money. Of course we have money. I just don't think we'll spend it. And I'm not having a go at the club for that. It's just I think there's an equation here that you've got to take into consideration. If this is his last season, then at the end of the year we appoint a new manager. That manager's going to need money to spend. It's no good that Moyes has already spent it, right? So I think, maybe if we do sign somebody in January, if our assumptions are right, I think it will be another Steiten player. Another Steiten player in preparation for the new regime. And look, I'm not... you could go conspiracy theory mad here and say Steiten, who was pitched in the photo with Bowen, it was him who convinced him. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Nobody knows. But one thing's for sure, Steiten's definitely got a sales pitch that is using to bring good players into the club and to get great existing players to sign contracts with the club. So So again, it feeds back to number one, Moyes is going at the end of the season. Number two, Stuyton has some bigger plans for the club, and I hope number three's right as well. But I have my doubts. So there was a really interesting show this morning on Hammer's chat with Gio, and he spoke about West Ham being evicted from Little Heath, the site where the academy currently play. It's on the A12. You probably know it if you're from round here. The council, Redbridge Council, want to turn it into flats, because if you're familiar with that area, they're building flats all along the A12, and that's just going to be an extension. And so they had to do something with West Ham, and so they've given up or offered up Oakfield, which is just down the road near Fairlop Station, almost next to Fairlop Station. And I know this really well because when I was at school in Bethnal Green, I think this was first, second, it used to be first year to fifth year, right? When you were at secondary school. That was in the olden days. Well, I think from the first to the third year, every Friday afternoon, we got bussed out to Fairlop, to Oakfield, right? And that's where we did all our sports, right? I remember learning to throw a javelin there. I was rubbish at that, by the way. I remember doing archery there. That was quite fun, actually, archery. It was all right. Played tennis. That was good. Hockey. That was violent. Played cricket. Always got stuck out on the boundary, asked to catch things. And played football, obviously, right? And we did the house matches there. And I mean, we didn't really have houses in my school. It was an East End comp, right? But come I don't know, was it house matches in the summer? I think they were. And so they very imaginatively named houses. They couldn't even come up with something better than red, green, blue and yellow house. And I was in red house. And I was in goal, right? And I saved a penalty at Oakfield. There you go. So it was my little crossover with West Ham. But yeah, we had no grass at our school in Bethnal Green. It was concrete over. There was nothing. So they used to take us poor little cockneys out on the bus to show us a bit of the countryside every Friday afternoon. It was great. Anyway, that penalty save, what a magnificent dive down to my left-hand corner, one-handed save. No, it wasn't like that, actually. Straight down my throat. But my handling was impeccable, as you'd expect, right? So I'm really intrigued with that. You can actually see that Oakfield is part of the Redbridge Sports Centre is there as well. As you go on the central line from Fairlop to Hainault, if you look out your window on the left-hand side, you'll see what might be the West Ham Academy very, very soon. So that'd be interesting. The other thing on Gio's show, that there's a grassroots club that's there at the moment, and the council have promised to look after them. I hope they do, because nobody likes to see clubs evicted without a new home. I hope either they help them out or West Ham help them out or something like that. But it sounds like they've got loads of different age groups from young to old playing for that team, and it's a substantial football club, and also there's cricket played over there in the summer, community cricket and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope a suitable outcome can be sought for that. Yeah, so I just found it interesting. There was like a personal crossover with that story. So go and watch it if you get the chance, because Gio actually interviews the guy that runs that grassroots football club. Also, there was a Joey Cole interview on West Ham Network today with Russ. I think the first part, 1 or 2. Really brilliant interview. Fantastic. Love listening to Joey Cole and his passion. Couldn't really disagree with anything he said, including the reasons for going to Chelsea. He also spoke about Fergie, and he said Fergie was amazing, because if you remember, every time Harry Redknapp bumped into Fergie, he used to ask how young Joey was, right? And he'd actually had Joey up there as a 14-year-old up at Old Trafford, and he went up there, and apparently this is the way Fergie was, right? He took such an interest, as well as multiple league titles, European Cups, and everything else. He was doing that on the one hand. On the other hand, he was working with the kids, and he was trying to get the best of the best through the door. And this is reflected in David Beckham's thing on Netflix, his documentary on Netflix, where Beckham was in the dressing room as a youngster, and some of the older players, the more established players, kind of said to him, well, you must be fucking brilliant if you're here. And that is, imagine that, the senior players know that the bar is so high for young players to come through the door that they straight away respect him because the big man has chosen them and taken an interest in him. Joey Cole said him and his dad was sitting in Alex Ferguson's office. I mean, how brilliant is that? You know, that is different class. I don't honestly believe we take that approach at West Ham. Joey Cole spoke about his time at West Ham, incidentally. He loved it, as does every person who comes through the academy, because I think the staff that work there are fantastic. He spoke especially of Peter Braybrook. Said he was wonderful to him, but it was proper old, you know, Cockney back door. And another thing he said was about how he used to be a bit, how can I say, loose at West Ham. Ruddock used to take him out on a Tuesday night. A lot of players used to go out on a Tuesday night. He said it wasn't until he joined Chelsea and started playing with like the superstars that he realised just how kind of loose West Ham was. And it was quite eye opening, really. There was another. I know I'm going through all the stuff that I've watched on other YouTube, but it's just my opinion. West Ham Fan TV, they did a Ginge special, and that was a really interesting. It was good. I love Ginge. You see him pop up. He was over at Arsenal in the Emirates in the away end one time that I saw him there. I was in Prague. He was in Prague. He was the one thing he said a couple of things. I can't remember the name of him now, but that guy who played a couple of games for us and we paid apparently several million for him, and he said, you tell me who it is in the chat, but it will come to me straight after the show. You know it will, right? He said, I don't know what he was, but he wasn't a fucking footballer, right? Fill in the blank for me on that one. And the other thing I thought was a really good question, right? I think Ryan asked it, said, who's the best player you've ever played with? And I found this a surprising answer, but he was adamant. He said Ravel Morrison. He said Ravel Morrison was the best player he's ever seen. Now, I know that Fergie thought that as well, right? What a fucking waste of talent that was. I mean, bloody hell, Ravel, what have you done, mate? Apparently he just went missing after scoring that goal against Spurs. I don't know. It's very strange, isn't it? But anyway, that is my ramble done. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe to our channel, Claret and Booze. Give us a like and hit the bell notification icon so you're informed of former shows. We will be back tomorrow night with, I don't think we're doing a phone-in tomorrow, but we're going to do viewers' questions, which we did that several weeks ago, just me and Nick, and now John's back. That was good fun, actually. I really enjoyed doing that. So if you're around and you can watch it live, please do, because you can get involved in the questions as well. We get some of them beforehand, but it's a really, really good format of show. Really enjoyable. So look forward to that. That'll be 9:00 tomorrow night on Sunday, and I've really enjoyed doing this ramble. So thank you for watching. I'll be doing these more regularly at some time soon. Until then, see you soon. Come on, you irons.